Hi, hello, welcome.
Hi.
Happy Thanksgiving. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sasan. We're so happy to have all of you. We're always going to give everyone a few moments to join us. But as you're joining, please make sure you mute yourself. But also, will you put in the chat where you're joining us from, what city you're from? So I am currently at our Kindbody Orlando clinic. So excited to be with you. I'm usually based out of our New York office. I see San Diego, LA, New York, Atlanta, Minneapolis, Austin. Wow, all places we have Kindbody signature clinics at. So that's awesome. Dallas, we're coming to you in 2022. San Francisco, Maryland. Amazing. Welcome, everyone. So most of you, well, some of you are on my same time zone, so it's 6 p.m. Eastern. A few of you are at 5 o'clock, and then some of you are still well in the middle of your day at 3, along with Tracy, who's on the West Coast. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're so happy to be here.
Hi. Hello. I'm Dr. Sasan. We're going to have hopefully a light-hearted and intense conversation about fertility. And I'm so excited to be here with all of you. I see some people are joining us from St. Louis and the San Francisco Bay Area, Dallas, Austin. Amazing. Thank you for joining us. If you're just joining us, please put into the chat where you're joining us from. We always love to know. Occasionally we get people joining us from overseas, so that's always fun to see. But this time it looks like it's pretty continental United States. But hello to all of you. Detroit is joining us. Amazing. So as I mentioned when at the top of the hour, we're just going to wait maybe another minute or two. So we'll start at 4 minutes past the hour, just to give everyone a chance to get here. And as you're joining, just please put into the chat what city you're from. We'd love to know where everyone's joining us from. And as I mentioned, I'm Dr. Sasan, Kindbody's founding physician, and I am here in Orlando, normally based out of our New York office. Oh, there's someone from Tallahassee, Florida. Wonderful. And then Tracy, who's one of our amazing team members, is joining us from the West Coast. Tracy, are you in, where are you?
I'm in San Diego. I lived in LA for almost 20 years, and then I lived in San Francisco for 5 years, and I'm now back in San Diego for about 2 years. So, yeah.
Amazing.
California hobo. Yeah.
I'm hoping to move there in a few years. Oh, someone's joining us from Queens, New York. Amazing. Oh, and I love the very first question someone's already thrown in here. I'm not infertile, but I do continue to get questions about when and if I plan to have kids, how do I respond to that? And we're definitely going to cover questions just like that. What you really want to say is none of your business. But maybe we can find some more tactful ways to address that. So welcome to all of you. We're going to start in just one moment. We're so happy to have you. Jersey City, New Jersey, Oakland, California. Welcome to everyone.
In his 20s on Oak Haven Drive this morning near Oak Ridge Road. He was rushed to the hospital.
Oh, and someone's listening to the news. Amazing. If you guys, as you're joining, could mute yourselves just in case there's some fun things happening in your background. And we're so happy to have all of you. Great. Looks like the adding numbers are starting to trickle down. Oh, no, still quite a few people joining us. So I'm going to give everyone one more minute and we'll get started. Want to be respectful of your early evenings and afternoons based on where you are in the country. All right. Great. Tracy, I think we could go ahead and start. Do you agree? Yeah, perfect.
Sounds good.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Fahimeh Sasan. I'm a board-certified OBGYN. I have the honor and pleasure of being Kindbody's founding physician. And we wanted to host, we do Fertility 101s for those of you who maybe this is your first time trying to figure out who is Kindbody or what are these people doing. We host a lot of information sessions throughout the year talking about fertility, and women's health and reproductive health and men's fertility. We try to really dig down deep into topics that we know are important. Fertility for women of color, fertility as it relates to the LGBTQ community, the importance of taking care of ourselves from head to toe and recognizing that we can't just focus on our uterus and ovaries when it relates to our fertility. And so as we embark upon Thanksgiving, and I don't know about you guys, I don't know if it's COVID, I don't know if we're spending like 90% of our times behind computer screens, but I am in absolute disbelief of the fact that Thanksgiving is next Thursday. I don't know about you guys, but whether we are ready for it or not, it is here. And then shortly after that, all of the other holidays in stow. And the reason we particularly wanted to address this topic today was maybe just highlighted by the very first question we got into the chat, which is, I'm actually not infertile. And maybe, I don't want to speak for this person, but I'm not even trying to get pregnant, but everybody seems to ask me, when are you going to have a baby? And Tracy and I were talking about this before we joined you. I am fearful that this year might be worse than ever because as a result of COVID, a lot of us didn't see our family and friends last year. And so this is the first time you're getting together with people maybe you haven't seen in 2 years. And I think the questions are going to be even more than ever. And Tracy was like, yeah, drunk Aunt Janet of somebody is going to be like, when are you going to have a baby? And that's going to send somebody over the top. So our goal tonight is to spend a few moments just talking about this topic and taking it out of the closet and just saying, for infertility and fertility struggles are real and that women of all cultural backgrounds face them and that we're here to support you and maybe arm you with a few things that you could do for yourself so that you can brush off that drunk Aunt Janet who is being annoying over Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever holiday you may be celebrating. The picture here is this gorgeous flower wall at our Kind Body Century City location. My slide, yep. So our Kind Body flower walls are kind of a little famous touch that we do in our clinics, but that one happens to be at the Century City Mall. So I noticed quite a few of you were from the LA area. So if you haven't been there already, that's where that is. So next slide. All right, so meet Kind Body. Kind Body is truly on a mission, and I feel so strongly about it as a founding physician that we really are on a mission to reinvent the delivery of reproductive health and fertility care and truly make it accessible for everyone. And the reason why this is so important is for the longest time, fertility care and reproductive care was just available to the top 1%. It was for the affluent, rich, and sorry to say it, Caucasian population, and everybody else just kind of fended for themselves. And then the other aspect of it is the topic that's very culturally embedded to us to be a topic we don't talk about. Doesn't matter where you're from, what your cultural background is, what color your skin is. I promise you, it is a universal truth that people do not talk about this topic in general. It's like taboo. And so we're really here to serve our patients regardless of where you are in your journey, whether you are a man or a woman, whether you are transgender, LGBTQ, whether you're single or in a committed relationship, and whether you're ready to have kids or you're not sure you ever want kids, or you've been struggling with infertility or had pregnancy loss. We're really here for all of you. And I mean that really sincerely. And the photo here is our New York City team, or some members of our New York City team, and just a reminder that we're all here and we look like you and we've faced the same anxieties and troubles that you faced. All right, so the services that we provide at all of our Kind Body clinics across the country, which you have full access to, and you can make appointments directly online, go to kindbody.com. We do provide the full scope of fertility care. So that would include assessments. So just pure curiosity, wanting to learn more about your body or your fertility. We also do virtual consultations. egg freezing, embryo freezing, intrauterine insemination, in vitro fertilization, which is IVF. We also provide donor egg, donor sperm treatments, as well as fundamentally important and game changer in the fertility industry is genetic testing. And that genetic testing can be to help see if you have a genetic carrier for cancer, like breast cancer, or if you happen to want to test the genetics of an embryo before we implant it to ensure that you have a genetically normal embryo. So the topic of genetics, we could spend an entire hour on, but all of this state-of-the-art fertility care is at your disposal here at Kindbody. We also feel that it's really important to not provide transactional care, meaning we're here just to help you get pregnant. We're not involved with the rest of it. And hence, we do provide the full spectrum of gynecologic care. That could be just your routine preventative visits, well-woman checkups, urgent GYN visits, contraception, IUDs, pap smears, and then more complicated gynecologic issues like PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, or endometriosis, or fibroids, or gynecology as it relates to you are just thinking about starting to try to conceive and you just want to make sure everything's okay, which is that preconception period. Or maybe you have some pre-existing medical issues and you want to make sure you optimize your health before pregnancy. And then, as I mentioned when we started this, I feel so strongly as a physician and as a doctor and as a woman that if your reproductive journey is only focused on your uterus, vagina, and penis, then we've failed you colossally. And so we really have a huge focus on wellness and nutrition and mental health and support, because this isn't easy. And if you are a same-sex male couple trying to have a biological child, there's so many layers to that onion. And having someone to hold your hand through that process and have those services is what we really pride ourselves in. So in a nutshell, this is what we do. And next slide, please. All right. And when I say we're truly on a mission, we really feel that it's so imperative that women and men understand that, well, I get it. This topic is scary for a lot of women. And I sit across the table from a lot of patients who, before we even start, say, I cannot believe I made this appointment. I'm very apprehensive about sitting here in front of you today. And this is not a topic that I feel comfortable talking about. And I want to be the first to tell you, I hear you, and that you have full validity in having those types of fears. But it's a topic where the more we understand about our own fertility and the more we understand about our partner's fertility, if we happen to have a partner, the more knowledgeable we can be, and hopefully the more empowered you will be to make the decisions that are right for you. And it is imperative not to put this off, because it's so easy to be like, okay, I'll take care of it next year, and next year becomes 2 years. And just understanding that time is truly fertility's worst enemy. And we're here to help you, and we're here to be your partners in this process.
All
right. So, as one of our wonderful guests who was joining us asked, and as I mentioned, one of the things we wanted to do was just help you. And so here's why this is important. Sitting here right now with 124 people that we have joining us, and there's amongst us, all of us have experienced some sort of loss. And maybe that was a pregnancy loss. Maybe it was a loss of a family member or a relative. Maybe it was a loss of a partner that you've been with for a long time. Maybe it's just that you've been totally focused on your education or your career, and you are steadfastly and independently proud to be single right now and focusing on other things in your life, regardless of kind of where your journey is at. Unfortunately, our society focuses on one thing once you get past a certain age, and it's, when are you going to have kids, right? And we get it from our grandmother. When are you going to get me grandchildren or great-grandchildren? We get it from our moms and aunts. We get it from our friends. And then tend to get it even from people who don't know us. Like, why is it a standard conversation starter at like a cocktail party. So how many children do you have? Or, oh, I see you're with this other person. Are you guys going to have children? And so it's unfortunately part of our culture, and maybe we can all work together to educate each other as a society that there's other ways to start a conversation, right? Like the weather, maybe. No, or travel. Where have you traveled recently? Or tell me about, what you enjoy doing, as opposed to when are you going to have children? So we'll all work together, because I really do think that it's something that we can collectively, as women, but collectively as just members of the society, change the conversation. And so that's something I promise, and from my family here at Kindbody to you, that we're all going to work on it to change the conversation. But in the time being, here's some of the tips that I will tell you as a physician and as someone who works with patients who experience fertility issues all the time. Number one, don't be hard on yourself, right? And for what it's okay to not feel okay. And like, even though everybody's got their Christmas bells on and are excited about the holiday season, it's okay if you're not in that good place for whatever reason it might be. So I think that's really important. The other thing is just to be present. And so, instead of worrying about, okay, I'm about to go to my mom's house, or I'm about to go to Aunt so-and-so's house, and I know for a fact that somebody's going to come up to me and ask me when we're going to have a baby, and they have no idea that I've been struggling, or that I've decided not to have children, or whatever your answer may be, or that I'm single, or I recently had a breakup, or whatever the case may be. Just be present and enjoy yourself, and know that you deserve to be there, and you deserve to have a good time, and that your happiness and your success and your sense of well-being doesn't need to depend on the people you're meeting with being happy with your decisions, or being happy with where you are in your journey. And to just be present with yourself, and know too that you don't always have to answer those weird questions. And it's okay to like make a joke and walk away, or like, oh my gosh, is my phone ringing, or I have to take this. And because sometimes I feel like when we're faced with that, we feel like we have to defend ourselves, or we feel like we have to give them back this whole long story. But I think I just want to arm you guys with, it's okay to just walk away and like, and pretend like you didn't hear them, or, oh my gosh, I need to go, or I have to go to the ladies' room, or whatever it might be. And just kind of shut them out too. Or maybe conversely, you've been bottling it up for a long time, and you do want to sit down with one of your family members having a good solid cry. I'm a big fan of a good solid cry, and maybe that's what you need. But I guess my take home is be present, don't be too hard on yourself, and do what's right for you. And then lastly is finding kind of your own time. And a lot of us, especially I think this year, are feeling like if we don't go to the most crowded room, now that we're all vaccinated, that we've done something wrong. But it's okay if maybe you want to sit out on a party, or a particular situation that is going to make you feel uncomfortable, or to find time to meditate and take care of yourself, and surround yourself with the people that do make you feel happy about what's going on in your life. But I think just now more than ever, we just need to own our own happiness, and not to fall into other people's expectations.
I think you're so right, Dr. Sasan. And there's been a lot of direct messages to me about how do you handle it? And something that one of our amazing therapists, make sure you're on mute, everyone, a therapist had said to me when we were talking about this previously, is that you can't control Aunt Janet and Cousin Mark and all these different members, but what you can control is yourself. So that's really like arming yourself with that. And I think exactly what you said of like being present and being able to kind of put your own armor on and know that you can control how you react. You can't control what people say to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And someone just wrote, we're worth so much more than our uterus and sperm. Amen to that. And that is so absolutely true. And, I'm an OBGYN and a fertility specialist, and I am often the most proud of women who have made a decision, or men, that I'm not going to be a parent. And I'm okay. This is what I want. And they own it. And I'm so proud of those people, because I think that in our society, we make that like some unattainable thing. So some do's and don'ts. I'll read through them because I think they're all equally important for handling the holidays or some encounters that you might be having now that we're all vaccinated and getting back together. Is, just like I said, don't build up your expectations of what it's going to be like. And maybe Uncle Mike or Cousin Mark and Aunt Janet will surprise you this year. So, just don't manage and reset expectations. Just kind of go into it with an open mind, and I'm here to protect myself. And whatever happens, I'm going to address on a case-by-case basis, whether it's walking away. The other is, if you know that Cousin Mark is going to come at you with, when are you going to get pregnant? When are you going to have a baby? Then maybe rehearse like that answer of like, oh, well, Cousin Mark, I know you've been, I don't know, whatever, you've been busy working. I actually have just been, wrote a book or whatever it is. I'm sure you've done something incredible in your life, or just share some fun book you've read or something that you just want to change the topic of discussion. But I do think sometimes just having something cool that you can change the topic of conversation can be helpful. The other thing is, I really do encourage, and I think we should do this all the time, especially during the holidays, and especially if you're worried about this from a fertility perspective, is a social media break. Because, my God, it's a lot, right? Like the Instagram and the Facebook, and like you go on and it's always like, why are there so many baby pictures on my Instagram? I mean, granted, I'm a founding physician of Kindbody, but sometimes I'm like, oh my God, stop. Like, I don't want to see these pictures. And so I can't imagine how it affects somebody who's actively struggling. And so taking a social media break, I think, is so important. And then seeking support that you need. And whether that's someone you know and trust, or going outside of that circle and speaking to a therapist or a psychiatrist or a physician. I think a neutral third party is sometimes so validating, and just having someone that's a clean slate who doesn't know you and can speak from a professional perspective. And then not to feel guilty for setting boundaries. I mean, I think sometimes we're like, okay, I'm going to go see the family. I haven't seen them now in 2 years because of COVID. So I have to be an open book and like share all my secrets that have happened to me over the last 2 years. And the truth is, you don't, right? We create that for ourselves. And so, and then not to be too hard on yourselves. I said that before. And then, of course, taking care of yourself. And so if you need to step away from that family gathering and go have a glass of wine, or just go stand outside and scream for a minute, or whatever it might be, or calling someone who's a friend that you trust, but just taking care of yourself and doing what looks and feels good for you. We'll go to the next slide. There we go. So, all right, we'll change topics for a moment, because I know I'm starting to see people are like, so what's the maximum age to freeze eggs? Let's get on with this. I want to learn about fertility. So we'll kind of change topics and actually talk about fertility now. So the reason why we get so annoyed about people asking us about fertility, and the reason why people do ask a lot about fertility, is, unfortunately, the truth is that fertility declines with age for women. And that's why people ask so much, right? I mean, there's an underlying understanding across the world that as women age, fertility declines. And so it's really important to understand that. And I sometimes sit in front of women who come to see me who say, well, I know fertility declines with age, but I take really good care of myself, and I exercise, and I do yoga, and I meditate, and I'm vegan. So it doesn't decline for me, right? And unfortunately, it declines for everyone. So it doesn't, while I encourage you to be the healthiest version of yourself, our fertility declines with age, regardless of how healthy we are. And that's just important to understand. All right, so what is all this age? What am I talking about? So as women, we are born with 2 million eggs. There is no time in our lives and no possibility, not even with fertility drugs or the latest technology, that we can make more eggs. So we're born with one box of eggs, happens to be about 2 million. And by the time we reach our very first period, so fill in the blank for yourself, you were probably somewhere between the age of 9 and 16 or so. By the time we reach our very first period, we're already down to 300 to 400,000 eggs. And we lose up to 1,000 eggs every month. And that loss is regardless of whether you're on birth control, whether you get a period or not, whether you have an IUD or not. So there's no correlation to this loss and bleeding. It is just what naturally occurs as a result of time. So born with 2 million, down to 300 to 400,000 by the time we reach our first period, and then we're losing up to 1,000 eggs a month. This is imperative for you to understand because this is why time matters. So what's all this about age then, right? Why is it that people say 35 and some people think it's 30 and all of this? So what's going on? Okay, so the misconception is that your fertility is perfect, 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 and you turn 35 and some switch gets clicked and you fall off a cliff. That is not what happens. We're declining from the moment we were born. So there's a steady, slow decline from birth so that by the time the majority of women reach 35 and older, their egg count is low by the virtue of that slow decline from birth. The key thing to understand is not everybody's slope of decline is exactly the same. So do you sometimes meet women who are 40 who just had a baby on their own, and we all know somebody who did that? Yeah, absolutely. But conversely, and unfortunately, 1 out of 10 women under the age of 35 will also have unexplained premature low egg counts. And that's the people that I hope to reach today, right? And the bottom line is that no one should assume your fertility is perfect because you are young. The same way you shouldn't assume you don't have options because you're older. This is a universal topic that we all need to learn more about. And most importantly, we all need to learn uniquely about our own bodies and not just assume that because our mom had us when she was in her 40s that we can have children in our 40s, or conversely, just because somebody in our family had struggled getting pregnant that we will struggle. It's imperative to find out about your own truth. So far I talked to you about egg count. Okay, that we're born with a finite number of eggs and we lose eggs as we age. But the other factor that's really imperative to understand is that our egg quality also declines with age. And what I'm talking about with egg quality are the 23 chromosomes that make up the DNA of our egg cells. So the way that it works is you have an egg cell that has 23 chromosomes and you have a sperm that has 23 chromosomes. And you put those two together, and if it's genetically normal, you would then get 46 chromosomes, right? So our eggs are always as old as we are, because remember, we're born with all the eggs we'll ever have. So at any given moment or time, our eggs are as old as we are. And what happens by the virtue of aging is that the same way as you get wrinkles because you're getting older, or your hair turns white because you're getting older, or your skin is changing, your body is changing. What does aging mean? Aging is the deterioration of our cells. And so our egg cells also deteriorate. And so it's really important to understand that as we age, not only do we lose egg count, but we also lose egg quality. And so really important to just understand both sides of that coin. So reality is, and bottom line and my take-home message is, you are never too young or too old, for that matter, to learn more about where you specifically stand. We can go to the next slide, and how it works and where you stand. And most importantly is to be proactive about your fertility and to not leave it to chance. Because for the longest time, what we have done as a society and as a healthcare industry is we've really failed people as it relates to their fertility, because the standard adage is, like some patient will go to their doctor and say, hey, I want to learn more about their fertility. And unfortunately, the standard response is, oh, you're young, don't worry about it. Or are you trying to get pregnant? And you're like, well, no, but I'd like to someday. And the response is, well, when you're ready, you'll try, and you'll try for a year. And if it doesn't work, then come back and I'll tell you what to do. And that's where we have failed each other, and where the healthcare industry has failed women in particular. And so I really encourage you to be proactive about your fertility and to be proactive about your future family, because the more proactive you are, typically the more options you will have, and it can be freeing as well. Next slide. All right, so if we're going to talk about fertility, let's just get down to real basics. When are we most fertile? So in this example of March 2021, this would be a person who gets their period on a monthly, somewhat regular basis, okay? So in this example, the period starts at the red dot, which is March 1st. So if your period starts on March 1st and you have a regular menstrual cycle, you would be most fertile from the 10th through the 14th. And 14th marks ovulation. That's when your body releases a mature egg. So you might say, well, if I release the egg on the 14th, how am I fertile on the 10th? The reason for that is sperm actually stays in our system, and a sperm that was released into your system on the 10th could still fertilize the egg a few days later. So that's where that comes from, okay? So if you have a regular menstrual cycle and you got your period on March 1st, your most fertile window would be the 10th through the 14th. So if you're trying to get pregnant, that would be the ideal time to have intercourse or to do an insemination if you have donor sperm. And if conversely you're trying to not get pregnant, this is what people mean by the rhythm method. You would then avoid the 10th through the 14th. But the take home for this is we spend kind of our whole reproductive life thinking the moment that we, look at a boy or sex or have any kind of encounter that we're going to get pregnant. And we're actually not as fertile as we grow up thinking. And we're really only fertile for about 5 days each month. So what factors impact fertility? I just told you the most important factor, especially for women, is time and age. But there are other factors that are so vital to know. Our diet and lifestyle are imperatively important. I just want to stress that if you're going to get pregnant, your pregnancy is only going to be as healthy as the person who got pregnant. And it's just as harmful to be underweight as it is to be overweight. And that if you have chronic medical issues, it's so important to address those medical issues and to try to be as healthy as humanly possible. The other thing that's really important is not to smoke cigarettes. Now, I hope nobody's smoking cigarettes anymore. We all know there's 1,000,001 reasons not to smoke cigarettes. But if you need another reason, cigarette smoking has been proven to decline and harm both male and female fertility. So again, hopefully this could be your New Year's resolution. If you're still smoking, here's another reason not to. Our family history is really important, but not maybe in the way that you think. The unique part of family history that's very important is if you are a woman and you have women in your family who have gone through spontaneous natural menopause under the age of 45, that puts you at increased risk of early menopause, which means, remember I told you our fertility is a slow decline, that your decline might be much more rapid. And so that's not information we all have at our fingertips. So since you are going to see your family, or you may be seeing your family, that's a question. Hey, how old were you went through menopause? And I stress that it's natural menopause. So if a person had a hysterectomy for some reason or had surgery, that doesn't count. It would be natural menopause. And lastly, and maybe this should be first, last, and everywhere in between, it's so important to take care of our mental health. Our mental health and our stress levels and our anxiety affect everything in our body, from the way our skin looks to our menstrual cycles to our fertility and everything in between. And so I really encourage you to take care of yourself and be kind to yourself, and to know that if you do need help in the form of a therapist or counseling, that is available. And we actually have that available through our KindBody app. So go to kindbody.com. Maybe you're not ready to check your fertility and you just want to take care of your mental health or nutrition. You can make those appointments today. All right, so we talked a lot about fertility so far. So what does it actually mean to be infertile? I said the I word, right? So infertility actually has diagnoses. So if you are over the age of 35 and you have been trying to conceive for 12 consecutive months, so this could be through sex or through inseminations, or maybe you've been, doing trying to conceive through various methods, and you have tried for 12 consecutive months and have not conceived, by definition, that identifies with infertility. If you are over the age of 35 and you've been trying to conceive for 6 months and have not gotten pregnant, that by definition is infertile. And so with those definitions in mind, 1 out of 8 couples experience infertility. It's much more common than we think. And then 1/3 of those couples, it actually, ladies, has nothing to do with us. And it's actually related to male factor. And what happens when we have someone who's had a loss or difficulty getting pregnant? Everybody turns to what's wrong with the girl, right? And the reality of it is that 1/3 of the time, couples that are experiencing infertility, it's actually due to male factor. So if you'd have a male partner, I encourage you so strongly, whether you've started trying or you plan on trying or you've already had difficulty, to get him a semen analysis. It's such an easy test. It's not invasive, and it can provide a lot of valuable information. All right, so at the end of the day, the bottom line with fertility is, yes, age matters a lot. Obviously, I hope I conveyed to you that the quality and all these other factors play a role. But the key is there's no magic formula, and everyone is different. And there's a lot of people who have undiagnosed infertility, meaning all their testing is perfect. Everything you do turns out completely normal, and they're still having a hard time conceiving. And so the only way to really know where you stand, what's my fertility like, how fertile am I, how long will I be fertile, how many kids can I have, is there still hope for me, am I too young, am I too old? The bottom line is we can't just assume, we can't make assumptions, we shouldn't be making generalizations, we shouldn't be thinking, oh, because my mom did it, I can do it. We need to find out where we personally stand. All right, so what can we do, right? All right, so the first most important step, again, whether you're single, whether you're in a relationship, whether you have no plans of having kids for another 10 years, or you wish you were pregnant yesterday, the first step is to do a consultation. This is one-on-one with a fertility specialist, not with a nurse, not with a call center, but one-on-one consultation with a fertility specialist. This can be done virtually or in person, whichever you feel more comfortable, where we really dig deep. Go over your medical history, go over your surgical history. What medications do you take? What birth control are you on? What are your periods like? Who is your partner? Do you have a partner? Are you single? How many kids are in your ideal family? All of those details. And then the second part is we do an internal ultrasound to count the number of follicles within the ovaries. And in addition, we want to look at the ovaries, look at the uterus. Is everything structurally normal? That allows us to tell you about your fertility. And then lastly, we do a blood test that checks a specific hormone called anti-Müllerian hormone, which gives us an estimation of your total egg count. How many eggs do you have left from that 2 million you were born with? And it's that combination of digging deep into your history and your medical health with the ultrasound and the blood test that allows me definitively to tell you, this is how fertile you are. This is the likelihood that you could get pregnant now. And this is what options you have to preserve your fertility for the future. All right, so then once you have your results, you have options, right? If you are in that category of someone who's not sure they ever want kids or certainly not ready to have them now, we can talk about egg freezing or embryo freezing to preserve your fertility for the future. Because I just told you your fertility declines with age. And since we can't press pause on our aging, I wish we could. And since we can't make ourselves younger, we could freeze our eggs or embryos so that we can use them in the future. Or maybe you are ready to conceive and you've had some difficulties, then we can talk about insemination or in vitro fertilization. Or maybe you need insemination or in vitro fertilization or a surrogate because you're in a same-sex couple, or because you've chosen to have a child on your own and you need egg or sperm or uterus to make that happen. So regardless of where this journey is taking you, The key is after we do that assessment, we can make individualized recommendations and then be your partner as you choose what option works for you. So what is egg freezing? Okay, so that's a topic about as it relates to fertility. So I want you to think of egg freezing as a process by which we say, okay, I understand that I'm born with a set number of eggs and that I lose eggs as I age. So is there a way to press pause? And the reality is, nope, we can't press pause on aging, but we can take a group of your eggs that you would otherwise lose and freeze them so you could use them later in life. And so that's what egg freezing is being opportunistic and taking a group of eggs that you would otherwise lose and freezing them for you to use in the future. Next slide. So who should consider egg freezing, right? Well, number one, these are kind of questions that I think you should ask yourself. Number one, how old are you? And please be honest. The second is how many children are in your ideal family? And this is a hard one, right? Because like, I don't know. Well, it depends on my age and if I can, but forget all of that. Just all things being perfect. How many kids would be in your ideal family? And I applaud you and kind of want you to own it if that answer is 0 or if it's 5. Like just be honest, whatever it is, right? And then really important, realistically, and I highlight realistically, how old will you be when you have your first child? And if you want, the answer to number 2 was more than 1. Realistically, how old will you be when you have your last child? And if you're going to have any one or all of your children after the age of 35, I would encourage you to at least consider freezing your eggs. Why? Our fertility declines with age. And if you're planning on having or anticipate that you're going to have kids after the age of 35, freezing eggs may provide you with a backup plan in case you have a problem. All right, so how does egg freezing work? All right, so I have this fun tissue box analogy that I think makes what can otherwise be a difficult topic a little easier. So imagine this tissue box I have right here represents your ovaries. We have a right ovary and a left ovary. And when we're born, we have one full tissue box of eggs, so about 2 million. What happens each and every month is our body recruits a group of our eggs. This is due to responses from our brain. Our body recruits a group of our eggs from our ovaries to start growing and maturing. This group of eggs responds to hormones from our brain to help one of the eggs fully mature. This one fully mature egg is the only egg in your entire body that has the capability of becoming a baby. So either because you're not having sex or you have an IUD or whatever is going on, you don't get pregnant, this one mature egg is lost. This group of eggs within that month period are lost. And next month, your body goes back to your ovaries, recruits a new group of eggs, and this cycle continues until every single one of us will run out of eggs. So that's fertility. So egg freezing, we say, okay, I understand my body is going to recruit and lose this group of eggs within the next 30 days. And I further now understand that only a mature egg has the capability of becoming a baby. So what we do with egg freezing is we say, okay, we're going to give you the same hormone that your brain releases to make this reaction happen, make this one egg mature, but we're going to give it to you at a higher dose with the goal of making this entire group of eggs mature together so that once they're fully mature, we can extract them, freeze them, and save them for you to use in the future. So egg freezing is a process of being opportunistic. We're taking a group of eggs you would otherwise lose, helping that group of eggs mature because only mature eggs can become babies, and then extracting them at precisely the right time before they're lost. Take home messages. We are not stealing from your fertility. We're not stealing from your tissue box. We're just taking the group that would otherwise be lost. So egg freezing does not put you into early menopause, does not harm your ability to get pregnant naturally, and does not in any way harm your future fertility or your fertility cycle. We're just being opportunistic and taking the group that would otherwise be lost. Okay, next slide. So highlighting here, because a lot of people have a lot of hesitations about the hormones. It's the same hormone that's released by your brain that helps one egg mature. We're just giving it to you at a higher dose. Next slide. And the hormones help eggs mature. They're administered over about 10 days, that's all. And we're there with you every step of the way. We literally will FaceTime you at night if you're having hesitation, giving yourself your shots. We have really incredible patient portal that holds your hand throughout the entire process, educational videos, a sample of which you see right here on the screen. And so I know the injections are one reason why a lot of people don't do this, but it's 10 days. We're there for you every step of the way, and it's a hormone your body's familiar with. Next slide. I just realized we only have 15 more minutes, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit. So this timeline that I just explained to you with my tissue box analogy, where we're taking a group of eggs and helping them mature, takes 2 weeks. So in this sample calendar, if you're on birth control, where you see the stop sign, that's when you would stop your birth control. If you're not on birth control, the yellow in the middle on Wednesday represents your period, and we would just wait for your period. Either way, you start injections on Friday in this example, and you're giving yourself injections only for about 10 days. And once we see that the majority of your eggs have reached maturity, we would then extract them. That's why it says tentative egg retrieval in the last 5 days of the calendar spots, because if you and 10 of your friends all started on Friday, you would finish on different days. Another take-home message about egg freezing is the entire process is extremely individualized. It is not one size fits all. It is not cookie cutter. Everything from the dose of medicine, how the medicine's administered, how much the medicines are tweaked, when your retrieval is, are all uniquely individualized and monitored based on you. Somebody just asked, so the injections happen right after your period. So if you get a period, your injections would start on day 2 of your period, day 2 or 3. So yes, if you have a period that lasts more than 2 to 3 days, you would still be bleeding the first couple of days of your injections. How does the egg retrieval work? Remember, we helped our eggs mature. Now we need to extract them. The retrieval is done under anesthesia. So you're asleep. Not anesthesia tube down your throat. It's just a mild IV sedation, like a twilight sleep. And it only takes 10 to 15 minutes with a very small needle that's passed through the vagina. So asleep, so don't worry about this part. 10 to 15 minute procedure done in our office. You're not going to a hospital or anything like that. And it's really minimally invasive, just a small needle that's passed through the vagina. You're not going to have any stitches. It's not considered a surgery. And you can go back to work the very next day. So a common question that I get is, well, should I freeze eggs or embryos? And well, number one thing to understand is once an egg is fertilized with sperm, you are committed to the sperm. So you can't unfertilize it. So that's a huge decision to make. So whether you're picking donor sperm or a current partner or whatever the case may be, just remember that once an egg is fertilized, you are committed to that sperm. So obviously that's a big decision. Make sure that you're good with that. The next piece of it is a lot of misconceptions. So there was a period of time about 15 years ago where embryo freezing was always the best. People would say success rates are better, you should freeze embryos, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason for that is about 15 years ago, the technology behind egg freezing was not good. And as a result, because eggs are much more fragile, embryo freezing was always considered the most successful route to go. But fast forward, amazing technologies have been made in fertility care, which have perfected the science of freezing and thawing eggs. And this perfected science has now evened the game so that with egg and embryo freezing are always going to depend on the age of the egg. The younger the egg at the time that it was frozen, or the younger the egg at the time it was fertilized, the healthier and more successful that pregnancy is going to be. So now it's not a matter of embryos are better than eggs. It's really going to depend on the age of the egg at the time that it was retrieved, and also whether you're ready to commit to the sperm. and this is obviously a topic that we would go over in much more detail with you one-on-one, is there are a few things that may tell us, recommend one thing versus the other. All right, so what comes next? So we retrieved your eggs, we froze them, and then my hope for all of you is that you're able to conceive naturally and not need any of this stuff. But in the event that you can't, we would then thaw your eggs, even when you're 45, fertilize them with sperm, create an embryo. We can then genetically test the embryo to make sure it's normal. And then we would place the embryo in your uterus or in the uterus of a gestational carrier to grow. So the key take-home message is the only difference between egg freezing and IVF is when you want to be pregnant. Next slide. Right, so it's on this slide as well. So to reiterate, a person who's freezing eggs or a person who's freezing embryos does not wish to be pregnant right now. They're doing this for some time in the future. Maybe it's a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. A person who's doing in vitro fertilization, their goal is to be pregnant now. So that's the only difference. The injections are the same. The time period, those 10 days of injections are exactly the same. The retrieval is exactly the same. Everything I just described with the tissue box is 100% the same. The only difference is when do you want to be pregnant? So now that we talked about all that, it's really important to understand that paths to parenthood are going to be highly variable. And depending on where you are in your life and your relationship status and your sexuality and your gender identity and your aspirations and ambitions, this is all going to vary. So you may need to do insemination with donor sperm. You may need IVF with a donor egg and donor sperm and a surrogate, all three. And these are all things that we're here to help you navigate and understand. And to know that we're really here to be your partners in this journey. We're here to support you emotionally, physically, financially, but also just to understand, like, what are all these acronyms? I don't understand IUI, IVF. It's all making my head spin, and just helping simplify what can be complicated to the best of our ability. So next steps, whether you are actively trying to not get pregnant, or actively hoping to get pregnant soon. Maybe you want kids 10 years from now, or you wish that you were pregnant yesterday. The bottom line is it's so important to not just keep kind of kicking the can down the road, and to come in, let's figure out what the issue is. Let's learn more about your body. Let's learn about your partner's body if you have one, so that we know where you stand, so we can be proactive, we can be preventative, and we can give you options. So no fertility conversation is going to be done without talking about cost. I do want you guys to know that at Kindbody, we do accept all major insurances. Aetna, Cigna, Oxford, United, all there for you. We also welcome FSA and HSA cards. I know a lot of you have those built up for the year and you need to get rid of it before January 1 so you don't lose it. Or you've met your deductible and want to kind of do some tests before it gets reset. But we do accept all major insurances. And if you want to email us at navigator@kindbody.com, we would be happy to answer any questions. Or when you come in, we can talk to you about deductibles and copays and coinsurance. If you want to go back to the previous slide, so a general fertility assessment, if you have insurance, is going to be billed through your insurance. And but if you don't have insurance, the self-pay cost with this code November 101, NOV 101, is going to be about $200. An egg freezing cycle.
I'm so sorry. This might be the wrong code. That's part of this whole deck going back and forth. Let me make sure I have the right. Oh, okay. Are we, Amandalyn, is that the correct code? I just want to make sure before.
Yeah. NOV 101 is, NOV 101 is the correct code.
Perfect. Sorry. I just didn't want us to go.
No, yeah, and then the egg freezing cycle with this code is going to be $6,450. An IVF cycle is $15,000, and insemination is $1,500. Obviously, I don't want you to have a whole calculation session right now, but just knowing we're really transparent about our pricing. We promise you that you're not going to come see us and then find out a week later or a month later you owe these big bills. So we're there to help explain everything. We will use your insurance as much as possible. And in times where you don't have insurance, we'll help you find additional discounts and things that you can utilize. And kind of the last piece is that you may work somewhere that you have fertility benefits, or maybe you work somewhere where you don't have any fertility benefits. Please know that we can either help you champion getting fertility benefits for your company. That is something Kindbody does. Or, and this is only a small fraction of the employers we work with now, but many employers do now have even egg freezing, embryo freezing, and fertility benefits. So just reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you further explore that. So we have 5 minutes left and I'd love to answer your questions. So Tracy and Amanda Lynn, I know you guys have been picking some of the questions. Do you want to kind of tell me what some questions you have seen?
I have so many for you, and that's why I kept messing up the slides, because I was trying to direct message and type while doing the slides. You can't do all the things. I've had PCOS. I'm almost 40 years old, and I noticed that my cycle is more regular. Does that mean that I'm able to conceive more easily now, or that I'm ovulating more regularly? I've never tried to have a child. I'm just very confused.
Yeah, so 2 factors. Certainly, if you had a history of really irregular periods and your cycles are becoming more regular, that's wonderful news. It may mean that maybe you've lost some weight, or you've become healthier, or you've had some healthy dietary changes that have helped balance some of the hormonal imbalances that you had previously. But the most important part in your case is that you're 40 and you have a history of some hormonal issues, and that please don't, let another day pass just thinking about it and hypothesizing or even listening to me. The key in your case is we need to find out about your fertility. We need to check your hormones. We need to check your ultrasound and find out where you uniquely stand. My hope is that you're still super fertile, and yes, you can get pregnant naturally, but if not, then the sooner we act upon it and freeze some eggs or take some action, the more options and choices you will have.
Perfect. And this is something, and I think we talk about this and get this question quite a lot, is, the difference too between embryos and eggs is not being able to assess the quality of an egg. And so that was the question, is there a way to assess the quality and quantity of eggs?
Right. So we can tell the quantity. So the number we can certainly tell, and that's with the ultrasound and AMH hormone that I told you. But the quality of eggs and the quality of sperm, there is no way to assess. The only way we can tell the quality of an egg or a sperm is once we fertilize them and create an embryo. And so that's just one thing that it's important for us to keep in mind, that as we age, the quality declines, but there's no way to check it.
Perfect. I have an IUD and do not have a regular period anymore. Is it possible to freeze my eggs with the IUD, or would I need to have it removed?
No. So that's a wonderful question, and a question we get all the time. So regardless of the type of IUD you have, whether it's a hormonal IUD or the non-hormonal copper IUD, you can leave your IUD in place. You do not have to remove it during egg freezing or embryo freezing. And it's okay if you don't get a period. There's other ways that we can calculate when to start your egg freezing cycle. So we leave your IUD in place, don't have to be removed, and it will not affect the success of your cycle at all.
Perfect. These questions are amazing. We've got so many here, Fahimeh. What's the best way to tell if you're ovulating other than the ovulation strips? Is there a blood test?
There is a blood test, but what I would say that's probably more meaningful is if you get a regular menstrual cycle, then you're probably ovulating. Now, if you get a regular menstrual cycle and you've been having unprotected sex for a period of time, under the age of 35, it's been a year. Over the age of 35, it's been 6 months. You can't just keep doing peeing on a stick and worrying about your ovulation. We need to see you and look at everything from head to toe, check the eggs, check the sperm, check the fallopian tubes, check the uterus. I think a lot of times women get caught up on ovulation, and there's so many other pieces to the puzzle. But the peeing on the stick can sometimes just get confusing. And so what I would say is if you're getting your periods every month, very high clinical chance that you're ovulating.
Perfect. I've been on and off birth control since I was 19. I'm now 35. Will this have an effect on my fertility?
So being on birth control does not help or harm your fertility. The time is what harms your fertility. So it's not the fact that you've been on birth control from 19 to 35. The fact is that you're 35. And so I do want to highlight, don't feel guilty or bad or stop your birth control because you feel you've been on it too long. That's a really common misconception. It's about your age. And so in that case, instead of assuming the birth control may have harmed your fertility, the take-home message should be to check on your egg count by doing an ultrasound, by doing that really helpful anti-Müllerian hormone test, so that we don't assume and we know for a fact. You may be a very fertile 35-year-old, or you may have low fertility. There's no way to know that until we actually check. Someone asked, is there food or drinks or things that we should avoid before egg freezing? And the answer to that is no. And the reason for it is we're just freezing your eggs. A lot of those recommendations, obviously I encourage you to be the healthiest version of yourselves that you could possibly be, and everything in moderation. But there's no perfect diet or cleanse or anything that's recommended before egg freezing. So hopefully that answered it. And Tracy, just before we part, because I realize we're at the top of the hour, kindbody.com is where you can get more information about our services. Kindbody.com is where you can schedule your appointments, both in person and virtually. And then what is the code? Because I saw somebody said it didn't work for them.
November 101.
November, NOV 101. So just for everyone to know, that is the code. If you're having trouble with it, just be patient with us and we'll make sure one of our IT people fixes that for you. But just keep that in mind. It's November 101. I think more and more people are saying that doesn't work. So we'll make sure to
also email navigator@kindbody.com. It's really a great place. And we tried to answer everyone's questions, but there were so many, which were all incredibly amazing. Like it's great to have this conversation. So please feel free to always email navigator@kindbody if you have these questions.
And for those of you, if for some reason the code isn't working, go ahead and make your appointment. And when you come to our office, mention that you watched the November Fertility 101 with Dr. Sasan, and our teams will all know to make sure that they offer or apply the code at that time. So just go ahead and make your appointments. We promise to honor it. And just to highlight, we have 2 locations in Manhattan, one in Princeton, New Jersey, another in Atlanta, Georgia, Austin, Texas, location in Santa Monica, San Francisco, LA, and Century City, in Silicon Valley. We're open in Minneapolis and in Denver, and we'll be opening 12 locations in 2022. We also have a myriad of partner clinics or centers of excellence we work very closely with if you live in a city where we don't have a Kindbody. But just please reach out to us. I wish you a very happy holiday season. Happy Thanksgiving to you. And again, just be proud of yourself and proud of where you are in your life's journey. Don't let people stress you out. Whatever is happening in your life right now, there was some meaning about it and purpose, regardless of what you believe in, and know that you are loved and cared for. And we at Kindbody are here to support you every step of the way. So have a wonderful rest of your afternoon or evening. And again, happy holidays from our family to yours. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Please reach out to us if we didn't answer any of your questions.